If you pay attention to international news, you might have heard of there is a huge protest in Hong Kong. Does anybody here raise your hand if you know what is that protest exactly is? So let me show you some pictures. So that's all the people on the street. So the people in Hong Kong, they are protesting against the passing of a bill called extradition bill. So what is this extradition bill all about, and why is that so controversial that to all the people on the street? So let me briefly explain a little bit the relationship between Hong Kong and China. So Hong Kong is a British colony since 18th centuries. And it was being leased to British for 99 years. Among all those years, Hong Kong is under British rule, and the people in Hong Kong even use English as their official language. And Hong Kong people has great degree of freedom under the British administration. In 1997, British returned Hong Kong back to China. So ever since, Hong Kong is part of China. But even so, China promised that they would not make any changes for the next 50 years politically. They will remain Hong Kong and let the Hong Kong people still have high degree of freedom and autonomy. And China cannot control Hong Kong directly under a policy called one country, two system. So Hong Kong still have their own independent, they still have their own judicial independence. And there's another country involved, Taiwan. So Hong Kong is right here, and there's another country, there's little islands in Taiwan. So Taiwan is a little island right next to China, and it is the country that is constantly being threatened by China for taking over. So there used to be only one China, but back then, the communists fought against the Chinese government, and then they took over the whole China. And the Chinese government fled to Taiwan. And now, as you know, Taiwan is democratic and China is socialism. Taiwan is completely different from China in terms of their value, and they have their own armies, and they have their own citizen elected presidents in Taiwan. So the story began like this. Toward end of last year, there was a couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, they traveled to Taiwan. And when during the Taiwan trip, the boyfriend murdered the girlfriend. And after that, the boyfriend flew back to Hong Kong and used the girlfriend's ATM card to take all the money that she has in Hong Kong. Later on, even though all the evidence shows clearly that the boyfriend is a killer, but because the murder was happening in Taiwan and now he is in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong authority cannot do anything because there's no extradition law between Hong Kong and Taiwan. Hong Kong authority cannot send this man back to Taiwan for hearing. All they can do is they can only charge him for stealing money from the girlfriend. They cannot charge him for whatever he has done in Taiwan. And because of that, this man ended up being jailed for only 2 years and 5 months. And as long as this man never go to Taiwan again, he is going to be free from the murder. And that is why, in order to punch this bug, the Hong Kong authority want to modify this extradition bill. Even so, in the future, the fugitive fled to Hong Kong, then they can be extradited back to where they crime and face the justice. For now, if someone committed a crime in Taiwan and they sneaked off to Hong Kong, the Taiwanese government cannot do anything. Same thing here. If someone commits a crime in China and sneak off to Hong Kong, even though now Hong Kong is part of China, but the Chinese government, the China government cannot do anything. They cannot request it for extradition. Under the proposed bill, China can request extradition under 37 listed crimes, such as murder and corruptions. But the Hong Kong court, they do not have the power to investigate a case. They can only examine whatever is submitted to them. And the extradition would happen once it is being approved by the Hong Kong Chief Executive. So now the point is here. The person that can make the final decisions is Hong Kong Chief Executive. And this position is being appointed by Beijing. This position is not being elected by the Hong Kong people. So he or she would feel compelled to support the request for the extradition from China. And that is why the Hong Kong people feel so dangerous. And that's why they took the street, they strike. Because China is famous of being human rights violations and lack of transparency in their judicial system. It is a commonplace that for a Chinese citizen just broke out against the leadership, and someday he is just disappearing. If the bill passed, if China label you as a criminal, then they can extradite you back to mainland China for trial. So for example, if Taiwanese that badmouth the China president and spread it out on the internet, if one day he travel and just take a flight transit in Hong Kong, even he doesn't go to China, he get a transit flight in Hong Kong, the step that he get into Hong Kong, then he will be redirected automatically back to mainland China for trial. And what is going to happen next? We don't know. And that is why over 2 million out of 7 million Hong Kong populations that got on the street because they want to defend their freedom. They want to be free from the intimidation and threatened by China passing this extradition bill. They don't want any China extradition because they think Hong Kong is not China. For people that come to Hong Kong, they should have the freedom. They should not be afraid that they will be sent back to China. And for now, the situation is that this bill is being suspended. But the Hong Kong protesters, they are still holding the marathon petitions because they want this extradition bill being revoked completely. And we will see how things go going forward. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.